Hey friend, before we get back into the episode, I want to offer you something that might deeply support you right now. If you've been feeling stretched thin, if you're carrying that familiar fundraising anxiety, or if you're craving a moment to step out of the pressure and reconnect to yourself, I'd love to invite you into a Brave and Balanced breakthrough session. This is a live one-on-one coaching session tailored specifically to you. As a certified coach and former fundraiser, I work with you beneath the level of surface level mindset tools into the somatic and emotional patterns that shape how you show up, what you believe is possible, and ultimately the results you create. Most fundraisers walk away from this session feeling clearer, steadier, and more able to raise money with ease and freedom. Not because they changed their strategy, but because they got out of their own way and reconnected to their internal source of strength. Right now, this session is $97, and the price will be going up in the coming months. So if you've been thinking, I should do this at some point, let this be your gentle nudge to take action. You can book your session through the link in the show notes. And if something in you feels pulled toward this, trust it. That inner tug is your wisdom speaking. All right, let's get back into the episode. Welcome to the Brave and Balanced Fundraiser, the podcast I wish I'd had during my 15 years as a professional fundraiser. I'm your host, Erin McQuade-Wright. This is your space to breathe, realign, and reconnect with the part of you that chose this work for a reason. Together, we'll explore tools and practices that help you show up less stressed and spread thin, and more grounded, brave, and on purpose. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today's conversation is about something fundraisers spend their entire careers around, but are rarely invited to explore from the inside out: money. My guest today is Claire Messett, a fellow Mastery Methods certified coach with a background in neuropsychotherapy. Claire specializes in identity, nervous system regulation, and money psychology, specifically what happens in the body when money enters the conversation. And even though fundraisers aren't raising money for themselves, money still activates our nervous systems. It can trigger old patterns around safety, worthiness, and power, often before we're consciously aware that it's happening. In this episode, Claire helps us understand why that happens, how early experiences with money shape our responses years later, and what fundraisers can do to stay present, grounded, and in their bodies during high-stakes donor conversations. If you've ever felt calm on the outside while panicking on the inside, if you've ever questioning whether you were worthy of asking for a large gift, or if you want to learn how to invite donors from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. My guest today is Claire Messett, who I met in my coaching program. We were both students at the Institute for Coaching Mastery, and I really loved how Claire, just like fundraising, when we all come to fundraising from different walks of life, some were journalists before they became a fundraiser, some were teachers, all kinds of different folks, some were scientists, and we find ourselves in the fundraising atmosphere. Coaching is a lot of the same. And I came to coaching from fundraising, which almost nobody else did, nobody in my class. And Claire came to coaching from her background in neuropsychotherapy. So today I want to bring you Claire Messett, and I think you're going to find a lot of value in this conversation because Claire specializes in identity, who we think we are, and what happens in the body. For example, when money enters the conversation, she's going to break that down for us. And she's going to help you be more conscious of the programs that are running in the background of your fundraising conversations so that you don't get hijacked by them, but you can have mastery over them and be intentional about your fundraising. Claire, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Erin. What a beautiful introduction.
I'm curious about what you would say. I think we carry a lot of baggage. At least that's the conversation you hear. We have a lot of baggage about money and how we feel about money. And I've been talking on this podcast about how when we sit down as a fundraiser and a donor, a potential donor, our nervous systems are actually interacting. Even though, I can try to go in my cute outfit with my smart glasses and look calm and placid. If I'm
Mm.
freaking out on the inside, the donor can feel that. And so I'm really interested in how that sort of baggage around money starts. Where would you say that this comes from?
Right. Well, it's a great question. And because of my background in the neuropsychotherapy, I will give a brief explanation. So basically, the way that I've worked with people when they've had a really, really negative experience, a traumatic experience happen to them with money. So that could be, for example, going bankrupt. It could be losing their job, losing their house. It could be watching someone else go through a really horrendous experience, maybe their parents, maybe their children growing up. And whatever happened at that time, their cerebellum, the most ancient part of our brain, laid down a neural pathway to the amygdala, which are the center of our emotions. And just to give you a little bit of background on the cerebellum, if you think our our brain, we have over 86 billion neurons in our head, and over 80% of them are in that most ancient part of our brain, the cerebellum. Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
it stores everything. And it's lightning fast. This is, you can think of it that this is how we can react to somebody throwing something at our head, and we duck before we're even aware of what's happening. That is the cerebellum reacting. And so when somebody goes through a traumatic experience with money, then a neural pathway is created in the cerebellum that reaches the amygdala and will basically flood the system with cortisol, adrenaline. This is not safe. And
Run away,
run
get out of
away.
there.
Like basically, don't do it. And in the future, when that person, so say this was something this person witnessed their parents losing their business, something like that. It could be decades later, and that person is now an adult themselves, and they are, wanting to ask for, say, a lot of money from a donor, for example, and there's something blocking them. They just don't feel safe
Mm.
asking to receive money because their cerebellum from all those, decades ago has connected lots of money with losing it or not being
Ah,
safe. So, however that works. And there's different ways. If somebody has experienced a traumatic situation, then I recommend working with a practitioner, a psychotherapist, just to resolve that trauma so that they're not being held back unconsciously.
yeah.
Because anytime in the future that person's in a situation where there's lots of money involved, then that cerebellum is going to be firing off, that
Yeah.
unconscious response to the amygdala, releasing the cortisol adrenaline. And then a split second later, after the body has reacted, that neural pathway, which is going at about 200 miles per hour, reaches. So it's literally about a third of a second later, the neural pathway reaches conscious awareness where that person consciously it's like, this should be easy. What is
Yeah.
blocking me from, feeling safe to kind of
Yeah.
receive or ask for money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have a story about that actually. When you were describing this, I could just see it happening. I had invited a husband and wife donor team to an organization I worked at, and I knew that they had already supported us in the past with major gifts, but they hadn't given in a while. And I invited them to come for a tour to see the mission in action. And I had a
Mhm.
very compelling sight there. When people saw it, they believed. It was easy to give tours. The place had so much heart that you couldn't help but see it and feel it when you walked through. So we took a tour, showed the new things that were happening, and we were sitting down in the executive director's office together. So it was the four of us, the executive director, me, and the donors. And I remember feeling, okay, I'm going to ask them for $250,000.
Mm.
And uh, they've already given before. I know that I don't need to convince them of the worthiness of this mission.
Mhm.
But what was going inside my body, Claire, was just pandemonium. It was so loud. My heartbeat, I was so nervous to say that thing. And it was just that situation you described. I'm looking at the situation on the surface. I'm fine. I'm safe. I'm in a climate controlled office with people who are already friends of
Mhm.
this mission. And yet on the inside, and now I know it was my cerebellum trying to
Yeah.
keep me safe, was
Mhm.
sounding the alarm as if a lion was chasing me.
Yeah.
And that's a really, is that an example of what you were sharing?
Yeah. So something in your past,
Yeah.
the cerebellum will have recognized and fired off a similar response so that your body reacts before you're consciously aware of what's happening. So you're kind of, it's like you're left backpedaling, like,
Yeah.
why am I feeling like this? There's no reason.
And
Yeah.
you mentioned the amygdala being the place that the neural pathway from the cerebellum goes to. And I
Yes.
remembered reading a study years ago where they hooked people up to, I forget what kind of test they did. It was brain scans of some kind. And they tested two different groups. One were seasoned meditators, and the other were people who, at that time, did something that was kind of new, which was after September 11th, we got the cycle in America of 24-hour news. And so
Mm,
there was a business incentive for newscasters to scare people, to
mm,
keep them watching.
yeah.
And of these two different groups, they found that the amygdala, which I guess you can tell us a little bit more about what the amygdala does, but the amygdala was much bigger. That part of the brain was bigger in the part of in the people who watched scary TV, like news saying that the terrorists
Oh,
are coming for you and things like
yeah.
that. The amygdala actually grew in that group,
Wow.
and the other group had a smaller amygdala. But to me, the most remarkable part of it was that was plastic, it was flexible, and that they were able to decrease the size of the amygdala, as I recall, by turning off that stimulus of scary news, 24-hour news cycles, and just having it on in the background, telling you what you should be afraid of. The amygdala
Mhm.
did shrink a bit when
That's
they removed
incredible.
that stimulus.
Yeah. And and it's worth adding in also the reason that horses can be used with um helping people overcome traumatic experiences is because horses have really big amygdalas. They are
Really?
feeling, yeah. So they're
Oh,
so good
that's
at
why they're so
sensing.
sensitive to us.
Yes. And so when if somebody is really traumatized by working with a horse, I mean, I'm not an expert in this side of things. I was just curious as why is it with horses? And then it just made so much sense because the horse feels, what the person that they're working with feels. And so if that person is dysregulated, the horse is going to feel it too. So the horse is like a kind of reflector. So yeah, I find it all really, really fascinating. So yes, of course, by people being stuck on this 24-hour news cycle, and it's not giving their bodies a chance to relax. They're just getting more and more tuned in to negativity and what can happen and that fear, scarcity, yeah, all of these things. Hmm.
Yeah, and you
So,
mentioned a really important word in fundraising, which is scarcity. And I think
mm,
if there was, I just got back from a podcasting conference and I had a lot of people asking me what my podcast is about. And so I had a very short time to be able to say what it's about.
yeah,
And I think that's what I come down to is how I'm helping fundraising professionals to ask from a place of abundance rather than from a
yes,
place of scarcity. And
yes,
part of the fundraiser's work, the conventional wisdom of fundraising, is paint a picture of scarcity for the prospective donor so they will take action because your funding cycle is ongoing. So you will always need money, but it's important that you create a time window. Give now while we have this match. A donor is offering to double all contributions up to $5,000 or whatever it is. Give now before this runs out. That is an example of creating scarcity. And so we
mm-hmm.
use that skillfully to help the donor take action. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
tell the donor, we need your gift and we will always need your gift because that's our business model, that's
Yeah,
not as compelling as we have this campaign that's happening from this date to this date. We need you to give now so that we can do XYZ action, right? That
yeah,
is what works. But I'm curious about what it does to us as fundraising professionals to be hitting that scarcity button
yeah,
so often, and maybe it bleeds over into our own thinking about interacting with donors, like we have to get this donation, I have to get this donor to say yes. And I know now, and I didn't know in 15 years of fundraising, but I know now that when I'm asking from a place of I really need this person to give or else it's
yeah,
going to be bad, that I'm not in my power and I'm not in
yeah,
my regulated nervous system, right?
yeah, yes. And I think that this is a huge part of being an aligned fundraiser where
Hmm.
that person's, that fundraiser's identity, nervous system, and mission are coherent with the level of money that they're calling in, the time
Hmm.
frame that this needs to happen, as you've, just been explaining, the kind of ethical scarcity. Um, and yeah, exactly. When you are asking from a place of kind of need and contraction, that's very different from inviting that donor to contribute from a place of expansion and abundance and the kind of energy of as a fundraiser, we're good whether you donate or not
Yeah,
as well.
beautiful. And I think this is really the edge. I think this is
Yeah.
the competitive edge for fundraisers
Hmm.
is if it am I asking from a place of contraction, like you mentioned. And when the way I describe contraction is I feel it really strongly as a gut clench. That is
Yeah, me too.
contraction, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like there were years and years and years of me clenching my gut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fundraising was a big cause of that and a big part of that. And I didn't realize that was a choice on my part. And you describe expansion, and what I think of when I think of expansion is a soft belly that's not clenched for an emotional punch of, no, I'm not going to give, or whatever the donor's answer might be. And if I have a soft belly, I have a soft throat. I notice those two go together. If my belly isn't tight, my throat isn't tight.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this right now as we sit here and talk. I'm softening my belly, deepening my breath, my throat relaxes. And what you're saying, I think, is asking from this place is asking from an expansive place.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I would even tweak that further to say it's an invitation from this place,
Mm,
not an ask. You're inviting,
yeah, beautiful,
because this
beautiful.
is all about finding the ways to help you as the fundraiser to regulate your nervous system and yeah, ask, invite,
Yeah,
invite from that place of expansiveness and abundance. And so I feel this would be a really good place to invite you into a process of questioning and investigating our beliefs in a state of mindfulness. This is an adaptation of the work from Byron Katie. And what this does is it's a way to identify. I mean, it might be really obvious anyway, but it's a really good way of identifying and questioning the thoughts that create stress inside ourselves, even if we're looking all calm and controlled on the outside.
yeah,
um, yeah, so it's questioning the thoughts that create the stress, upset, or fear in our lives.
beautiful.
And yeah,
So
it's
why don't we do this? You can lead me through the process
yeah,
and I'll put
perfect.
myself back in, I'll go back in time about, 10 years, and I will go back to that table with the donor, the two donors and my executive director, and I will answer where you lead. I'll be that person.
Yeah,
Does that
perfect.
work?
And
Okay.
that works. And it would be helpful for this to be a kind of really charged, limiting belief about fundraising that's really common.
Yeah.
So it could be, for example, I can't attract my ideal donors or something like that.
I think the belief that I had in that moment
Yeah.
is I don't have the right to ask for this much money.
Okay. So
Or like I'm asking too much.
I'm asking too much. Um, I'm not worthy to ask for
Oh,
this
yeah,
amount.
that was a big one. That was a big one. Yeah. That's a layer deeper than I was, but yeah, that was what it was. I didn't feel worthy to ask for that
Yeah.
donation.
And so, yeah, so it could be I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I can't attract the right people to give me the money or, like
Yeah, I mean, well, the people were already there. So
hmm,
let's go with I'm not worthy to
okay.
to ask for $250,000.
Okay, so I'm not worthy to ask for $250,000. Okay. And so, Erin, putting yourself back in that situation, if you were to rate that limiting belief, that limiting thought on strength, with 10 feeling the strongest, where would you put that thought on a scale of, 0 to 10?
I think I'd put it at a 7.
At a 7. Okay. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this statement around. Okay. So instead of I'm not worthy to ask for $250,000, I am worthy to ask for $250,000. Okay. And I'd like you to think of a couple of reasons or examples of where you are worthy of asking for a large amount of money.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be $250,000. It can be a large amount of money.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is I was hired to do
Yeah.
this job.
Yeah.
So I was worthy. I was deemed worthy when I
Yeah.
was
Got the
even
contract. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the contract that this is my job, so I'm worthy of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very clear and clean. Love it. And another reason?
Um, I I'm worthy of asking them for this money because they've already shown their support. I'm not asking, it's not a cold ask. I'm not asking a stranger. I'm asking someone who's already a friend. So this conversation is right, even though my body is freaking out and telling me this conversation is wrong for me to be having.
Yeah. And are you asking for you
Mm,
or
no.
so
Yeah. I'm asking for a really good cause
uh-huh.
that
That
I
has
believe in
nothing to
and I
do with
know
you.
they believe in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when you say they believe in this, how again, how do you know that?
Well, they have a history of giving.
Hmm.
Since before I came to work here, they've been giving.
And so what is, apart from the history of giving, what is a benefit to them for giving as well?
They get to support a mission that's aligned with their values.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And also you mentioned the tax relief as well. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
basically finding all these reasons why, because that's going to be standard for fundraisers in general. The
Yeah, there are tax benefits to giving.
Exactly. And so it's kind of making this list in your head or writing it down beforehand. What are all the
Mm,
reasons why I am worthy um, of inviting this company, that this donor to donate,
yeah.
and listing them down. And okay, also it's also worth pointing out or just inquiring as an extra aside, does you feeling worthy or not worthy have anything to do with how worthy the company is that you're doing the fundraising for?
Well, I think the deep truth underneath that
Hmm.
is I learned early on that in order to have a peaceful home, that I
Hmm.
needed to not have needs. I needed to, be a peacemaker and not have any needs of my own.
Yeah,
And I think when it came time to choosing a career, it felt a whole lot better for me to ask for a mission than for myself. So
right.
I found my way into work that was not terribly high paying,
Mm-hmm.
and that I wasn't asking for me, I was asking for the mission. And there was a hiding there for me that went like a hand in a glove with how I learned early to take care of myself, which is by not having needs. So, yeah, those are
Yeah.
connected, the worthiness and sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when we turn around the statement as well, we could also, look at it from the perspective of the company that you're fundraising for, their
Hmm.
mission. Is their mission worthy of receiving
Absolutely.
$250,000? Yeah.
That's a clear yes.
Yeah, exactly. And how does that feel in your body when you think of it from
Just feels clean. It feels
uh-huh.
totally not muddy at all.
Yeah, yeah. And so this exercise, it's about finding what works for you and going with it, like what makes you creates this feeling of calm, because everything is from the inside out. So whatever
Mm.
creates calmness in your body, go with that, amplify it. And yeah, you're inviting the donor to make this amazing contribution that they've done many times before, um, from this place of abundance, expansion, possibility.
Yeah, I
And
can see now how in that situation, rather than focusing on the donor's desire to do something good and the righteousness of the mission, I actually, because of my nervous system freaking out, got in the way of that and made it about myself. Am I worthy of asking for this? Am I not worthy of asking for this? Either way, the spotlight went to me
mm-hmm,
instead of to the donor. And
mm-hmm.
that, with the spotlight on me, it amplified the feelings of inner freak out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can see how it was an obstacle in that conversation. And now the donors were able to exhibit a lot of grace there, and so they didn't get derailed by my inner freak out. They were
Mm-hmm,
able to keep it on the tracks, and we got to a good place with the conversation. But
mm-hmm,
I can see how you say do what works for you.
mm-hmm,
And if I put myself in those shoes 10 years ago, I would have so much more calm
mm-hmm.
if I allowed the spotlight to stay on the donor and the mission of my organization and not made it about me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
already feel more calm in my body now, just saying that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that this is going to be something that lots of fundraisers will relate to.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm,
what would be the practice, Claire, of if I have a pattern of unworthiness,
mm-hmm.
or if I have a pattern of the situation on the face of it is calm, but I'm freaking out inside. What's the practice that I could do before that meeting
Yeah.
to make sure that I don't lose myself in this little rabbit hole that I got lost in?
Yeah. So writing down the reasons that you are worthy to
Mm,
receive, to be part of receiving this huge amount of money for the company that you're fundraising for, to write down what the donor gets out of it, to write down so that you're taking yourself out of the picture. So you've got everything black and white. If you're still feeling really tense, then something I love to do before I go into a meeting or some kind of negotiation, or
hmm. A
some
high
kind of
stakes
situation,
conversation.
yeah, a high stakes conversation, is to close your eyes. So I'll invite you to do this just now.
Okay.
And take a long, slow breath in through your nose and into your belly. And then a long, slow exhalation back out through your nose. And we'll do another breath. And this time in through the top of your head, just imagining this breath coming in through the top of your head and into your heart space. And then imagining exhaling that breath all the way down through your body, deep, deep, deep into the ground. So it's lovely and grounding. And then inhaling that breath up through the ground, through your body into your heart space. And then exhaling that breath up through the top of your head. And as you're continuing to breathe in and out of your heart space, I'd like you to think of a person, place, or situation that brings you the feelings of worthiness and calmness, confidence, and just noticing as you're remembering this experience, just noticing where you feel it in your body energetically.
Yeah, it feels like waves in my heart area.
Beautiful. And just knowing that you have access to this boost of self-worth and confidence before you go into the meeting by just doing a few breaths and
Mm.
activating that experience so that your body is feeling it energetically first, and then going into the meeting already having centered yourself and grounded yourself so that you're not reacting from a place of lack, fear, need. You are giving answers from this abundant, expansive place that you've already created inside yourself through these memories. And yeah, yeah.
I remember hearing about, this is a really nice feeling in my body. Thank you, Claire. I remember learning about actors going on auditions, and often at the beginning of their careers, they would enter those audition rooms feeling such great need to book a job, and inevitably they didn't get those jobs.
Yeah.
And at some point, many actors talk about this, turning a corner where they'd had some success or some things had worked out in their favor, and they could assess that they walked into the room with a genuine feeling of okayness, like, I don't need this job.
Yeah.
And they got the job.
Yeah.
It's happened so often that people
Yeah.
come into that room with that feeling, and then
Mhm.
success follows. And I
Yes.
think fundraising, my theory is that this is what we're doing in the fundraising space, that by shifting our inner awareness from I need to I have already, and I'm inviting from a place of I have,
Yes.
that regardless of what the dollars are and your distance toward your goal for the year or for the quarter, that entering in that space of abundance
Mhm.
causes that fundraising conversation to go better than it would have if we'd entered from a place of lack.
Exactly. Exactly. Because the people that we're communicating with can feel us energetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saying, I think from a neuropsychotherapy point of view, that that's
Mhm.
not just a theory that we can feel each other on a nervous system level. Like that's true. And I thought
Yeah.
that I thought I was doing a really good job at keeping it under wraps. But what you're saying is people could read it on me. They could feel it. they didn't need to see it on my face.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not everybody, but it depends how intuitive the people are. But we definitely, it's like that thing of you could be walking along a road and it's really quiet, but you suddenly turn around because you feel someone staring at you, or you're on a
Yeah.
bus or something. There's all these
Yeah.
funny situations where you just know without understanding how you feel it. It's that kind of thing. And
Ah.
so by giving ourselves all the tools we can to create that calm, grounded, abundant, expansive feeling in our nervous system first, then everything else will become easier. And, one of the um, it always makes me think of, let's say it's a really stormy sea, and you've got the kind of captain on the ship, um, is you've got two versions of them. One of them is really like getting stressed out, and the other one is very calm and grounded. Of course, we are always going to want to be with the one that's calm and grounded, even though
Mm.
externally the same things are happening. We want to go with the one that feels calm and grounded. It's so important. And so even when you're not feeling calm and grounded, by doing the breathing exercises, by breathing into your belly, that immediately activates that rest and digest parasympathetic system. So you're kind of instructing your body, I've got this, because you're
Yeah.
breathing deeply into your belly. So even when you're imagining the breath, breathing into your heart space, physically, you're still breathing into your belly.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just a great tool. And then after you've kind of, when you're running through things, not while you're actually in the conversation, so it could be before you go into the conversation, if there are certain
Like
um,
pre-visualizing how I want it to go.
yeah, then doing some compassionate self-forgiveness at the end is a really beautiful way to again just help um, create this kind of safety in your nervous system.
Oh,
And
great. Will you show us how
so,
to do that?
yeah, yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to invite you, Erin, to close your eyes if it feels comfortable to do so. And just gently bringing one hand. Oh, you've already got one hand on your chest. Lovely.
Yeah, my
And
hand is
again,
on my heart like I'm about to say
beautiful.
the Pledge of Allegiance.
And yeah, so taking a long, slow breath in through your nose, and then a long, slow exhalation. I forgive myself for judging myself as not being worthy to ask for $250,000. And
I
then,
forgive myself for judging myself as not being worthy to ask for $250,000.
whatever your truth is, Erin, and this
The
is about,
truth is,
hmm,
the truth is the fact that I am here in this room with these donors means that I'm worthy to have this conversation, and asking is part of the conversation.
absolutely, yes, yeah. And I forgive myself for judging myself as, just give this as another example, as not being good enough or capable enough to attract ideal donors.
I forgive myself for judging myself as not able to attract ideal donors and get them to give.
Yeah,
The truth is, the donors giving or not giving to my mission is not based on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on their alignment with the mission and their desire to give.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
truth is, when I make it about me, I decrease my own alignment and my own seat of power and my own peace and calm that is up to me to cultivate.
Yes. And I was also curious about, I'm I'm going to make an educated guess that, fundraisers, even great fundraisers here, know a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
And so just kind of talking to, I guess you could call it like the elephant in the room. As a fundraiser, you're going to hear no a lot. Would you
yeah,
say that's, yeah. And so it's like
yeah.
this resilience.
So I can say a compassionate self-forgiveness statement
Yeah.
about that as well. I
Yeah.
forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that hearing no
Hmm.
means anything about me as a person.
Yeah.
The truth is, the donor's yes or the donor's no is outside of my control. And the only thing inside of my control is my own emotional experience. I'm in charge of that. I'm
Yes.
not in charge of whether they say yes or no.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And for some people, the truth could be that their nervous system learned to fear asking. And
Hmm.
so the truth is, it can unlearn to
Oh,
fear
let me do
asking.
that one. That one feels important. I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that the way I learned to feel about money is forever.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, I can change how I feel about money, and I choose to see myself now as a person who is expansive and open and grounded in discussions of money. Oh, that feels really good.
Yeah. You get to choose how you want to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and so yeah, and the truth is rejection is part of the job. It's not proof of inadequacy.
Yeah,
So
and they're rejecting the request for a moment for a particular amount of money. They're not rejecting me. They're rejecting the request
yeah,
of can you give $250,000 to this campaign? They
yeah,
can reject that request and I'm perfectly fine because
yes,
I am not I'm not asking them to approve of me. I'm asking them to approve a request.
yes,
Mm.
yes,
That feels
exactly.
important too.
Yeah, yeah. And is there anything else that from, your time as a fundraiser that would that you feel would be good as a compassionate self-forgiveness statement that would help your listeners?
Hmm. I think those were the big ones, Claire. Those were
Yeah,
the big ones. And I
yeah.
appreciate you guiding me through that process.
And yeah, there was like another one that came up. Thought like the truth is fundraising is a relationship skill, not a personal worth test.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And
Which
we
is
talk about the
uh-huh.
importance of relationships
Yeah.
in fundraising, and we talk about being intentional about how we engage with potential donors or how we cultivate those relationships that are already in place. It's all we talk so much about relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
I love getting to discuss with you today how neuroscience plays into our relationality with each other and
Mhm.
most importantly, our relationship with ourselves. So I want to thank you,
Yeah.
Claire, for being here and sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom with my listeners and with me. And I know they're going to want to keep in touch with you and learn more about what you're up to. So, where is the best place to find you and follow your work?
The best place would be my, yeah, just going on to my website, www.clairemessett.com. So that's CLAIREMESSETT. And I do talk a lot about the relationship we have with ourselves and the relationship we have with money and how that does reflect the relationship that we have with ourselves as well. So, you've touched on that, and it's such a huge one.
Mhm.
And just really one of the things that I love to invite people to do is to put themselves in a situation where they imagine themselves being in a coffee shop,
Mm.
or just in a space that feels comfortable, and sitting at the table is the energy of money, and
Ah,
then guiding that person to have a dialogue with the energy of money. And it's really interesting the things that come up and how it's so I think doing that would be really useful for your fundraisers as well, because how we are with money is going to reflect in how we are with inviting fundraisers. And there's all these different patterns, and how we are with
beautiful.
ourselves, and these patterns show up in these different aspects of our life. So that's a good little practice you can do as well.
And if people want to dive more into the money stuff with you, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, I do online workshops. So when I will probably do one in February. So if people are interested, they can go onto my website, and then they can, see when any upcoming workshops are. I'll be doing the online one for free. So yeah, that's an
Excellent.
invitation for February. It's my birthday in February, so I'm going to be doing like a birthday kind of workshop to help people.
Wonderful. Well, I invite my community to check Claire out on her website, clairemessett.com, and keep up with what she's up to. And Claire, I just want to thank you so much for your time today and for spending time with me and my community.
Oh, thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a few key takeaways that you can carry with you into your fundraising. First, money is not just a practical issue, it's a nervous system experience. Even when the money isn't yours, your body is still responding to safety, threat, and meaning when money enters the conversation. Second, when anxiety shows up before an ask, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means an old, learned pattern is being activated. Those patterns are adaptive, they can be unlearned. Third, fundraising is not a personal worth test. A donor's yes or no is about alignment, timing, and capacity, not about your value as a fundraiser or as a human. Fourth, regulation changes everything. When you soften your body, slow your breath, and stay present, you create the conditions for clearer thinking, stronger relationships, and more authentic invitations to give. And finally, asking from abundance doesn't mean pretending you don't need the money. It means staying grounded in your worth and letting the spotlight remain on the donor and the mission, not on your self doubt. If you'd like to learn more about Claire and her work exploring money, identity, and the nervous system, you can find her at clairemessett.com, which I've linked in the show notes. Thanks for spending this time with me today. Take care of your internal climate, and I'll see you next time on the Brave and Balanced Fundraiser.